audience, of course, and Mr. Stephen. The fact of the matter is that the people, this particular mission, because I see it as a mission, I see it as a calling, I see it as an opportunity that may not come again if we do not achieve the objective that we want to achieve here. We love, for example, a lot of people of the fellow Richmond, which of course is the party that is registered with the PDC did make an effort in 2007. But of course, it was not as we would have expected, because I thought then we have a Lavendale party dedicated to Lavendale, and the people will naturally gravitate, but a number of other factors. People probably at that time weren't ready for the UNC as yet, and they would tell us all the idea about the UNC. But of course, after several decades, what we find now is that the stone, to use a biblical term, the stone that the builder rejected, suddenly, of course, has now become the cornerstone. Because, of course, Rowley and the Scorcher and the PNM has done so badly and so wickedly, and maybe naturally, but people may not have seen it in a massive way and in the intensive way that we have seen it now over the last 10 years. And as a consequence, there has been a total and absolute, should I say, revolution, meaning that people all over the country, all over the world, all over the Caribbean, etc., they have been saying that this particular administration has brought to Trinidad and Tobago to its knees. We are no longer respected. We, of course, are becoming more and more poor. Most of our influence, our hegemony, let us call it, but there's more influence in the region and elsewhere have been waning, and as a consequence, Trinidad and Tobago is worse off for it. But within Trinidad and Tobago, we have a constituency that is called Lavendale, but nobody here would vex with me if I say Lavendale probably begins with what we call East Port of Spain and go right over to Mova, Mali, etc. I think we have the same geographic, not the same geographic certainly features, but certainly the same social and economic problems and attitudes, etc. that have made it, of course, common for all of us. Of course, the constituency, politically wise, the constituency of the Lavendale West is generally a very hilly area, mostly hilly area, and of course the topography probably has gone against any opponent to the PNM when they take the challenge of course opposing the PNM, having been of course ensconced or have been so solidly established as far as the political fortunes in that particular constituency is concerned. Some of the advantages that we would have had, I had a little prepared thing, but I will do it some other time. Some of the advantages that we would have had, for example, for me, my position is very simple. Lavendale gave the country its national culture, steel band, calypso, carnival, and of course we were responsible for the survival of the PNM itself, being in office longer than anybody else. And in return for that, what we got was pain, agony, distress, and of course a total neglect. It is therefore appropriate at this time, having regarded to the fact that the thing has come full circle in terms of the danger that the PNM pose not only to the constituency, but will be more poor if we allow them to remain, and the country itself will be in mortal danger if we do not address or arrest the unbridled situation that is now occurring in terms of mismanagement, corruption, nepotism, cronyism, and all of the iniquities that we have seen in this country. We have higher than national average, which is established, of course, school dropouts, so we have higher than national average, of course, young girls, making children, we have, of course, higher than national average murders, higher than national average gangs, higher than national average borderline issue, and we can go on and on as far as the negatives are concerned, including the fact that the deteriorated infrastructure, whether it be road, drains, etc. And then therefore, That accumulation means that we have been stigmatized both nationally and regionally and internationally. I say internationally, I don't feel it's pie in the sky when we say so. We talk, of course, with a high degree of authority. When, of course, you are looking at, for example, somebody visiting or wanting to visit from the United States, Canada, Europe, or whether it be the UK, etc., and you go on their website, courtesy, of course, of the embassy or the high commission here in Trinidad, and you will see, of course, that they don't come to Trinidad. Essentially, that's what they are telling them, whether an investor or as a visitor, a tourist, to spend some dollars here and to, of course, give us an opportunity to generate more employment opportunities. But on the website, that is called, of course, advisories against Trinidad and Tobago, you will see invariably that they say, if you're so minded to go to Trinidad, don't go to Lavatil, don't go to Nelson Street. And to me, that is an affront, and that is an embarrassment for any resident that, of course, have a deep respect and allegiance to our community. And therefore, in such circumstances, we have a duty and responsibility to dismiss, to eradicate, and to render null and void that kind of argument. How do we do it? Well, we believe that we must, of course, not only confront those who have been making those allegations, if you want to call it that. I would say allegations, somebody call it a nice term, advices against Trinidad and Tobago, but of course, more specifically, mentioning Lavatil, mentioning Nelson Street, etc., is a serious indictment on our community. And therefore, in such circumstances, we have a duty and responsibility by the people, of the people, and for the people to generate the kind of what I consider to be dispelling of that perception or that reality that is conjured up and manufactured and orchestrated and telegraphed to the world about Lavatil. So therefore, it is against that background. I'm talking here about the general philosophical position that we have found ourselves and why we had to create Lavatil Outreach for Vertical Enrichment. Some of the things that we have considered and have done is, of course, to those who are from around will know that we brought the British High Commission here to walk these very streets. We brought the Americans, we brought the Canadians to walk these very streets. And of course, when things were nice, we also brought the Venezuelans. But of course, these days we can't bring them, but certainly the others can. And they have been given commitment already. The British High Commission has agreed, of course, to continue that arrangement. And I want to say, without another them for us, and that is the Indian High Commission as well. Because coming out of those walks all around the place by the High Commissioner, this man was sent free of charge by the Indian government, to of course do a course in entrepreneurship development. I think it was 6 months thereabout at their expense, and so capacity building, because he has been doing a tremendous job. He has his own business, I think more than one, and of course ready and able to lecture and or to assist any young man, woman, or beyond that, to assist them in, of course, setting up their own businesses as a consequence of the presence of the Indian. What that means, it meant, therefore, that our argument has been that Lavatil is not what you say and telegraphing to the rest of the world, that it is all about what they think. No. And therefore, I am making the point that we have a duty and responsibility, because I'm laying the foundation for the argument why we must understand we have to love ourselves, do it ourselves. The government is not prepared to do it, cannot do it, and therefore, as one lecturer told me at some point in time, that you can have the best ideas in the world, the best ideas, But if you don't have the power, and what he meant by power is that it means political power. And therefore, my friend, you could have all of the nice sporting tournaments in the country. My friend here could be as good as he could be as far as counseling young people are concerned. He could give away as much computers to young people in the beat-up, etc., or give away agricultural tools as he has been doing. The fact of the matter is that that is circumscribed and limited if we do not have access to the treasury of the country. And therefore, recognizing that, it means that we have a duty to get and find a way to access the treasury. And therefore, when we go to the people and we tell them we have a mechanism called Laventil for Laventilian in the first instance, and then we said, of course, we have moved that into a political entity called Laventil Outreach for Political Enrichment. That was deliberate. And we went and registered with the EBC, etc., to begin to take charge. There were those who were extremely skeptical, doubtful, because, of course, like sometimes abusive relationship, the person who is being abused, those seen as abuse, and therefore they cling and cling and cling until, of course, they have to realize that abuse cannot be sustainable, and therefore they get rid of the relationship. Well, I think love has presented the opportunity for Laventil to be in that position, to divest itself, to distance itself, to abandon that which has been abusing us over these many decades. I want to say as well that while I would have been aware, but I was pleasantly enthused and elated, and I only got a piece of it yesterday, when, of course, the traditional team of very committed and dedicated activists, I call them that activists, why they may be connected to the UNC per se, of course, that we will be working in coordination and in concert with each other and in cooperation. But the fact of the matter is that I was not aware why I'm saying that I was pleasantly pleased, and because I wasn't aware that there were other people who were doing equally as much, not that I was conscious of it, but equally as much as to touch and feel and be in the company of these people. I see them as great people. I mean, in the company of Mr. Bird, Mr. Penny, of course, and that fellow who died from the Spree Simon, who created Spree Simon, etc. I mean, among them, but of course, it's nice to know that there are more. And of course, I expected that we will be able to work together in order to bring that vision that we hope for and see for Laventil. In other words, we must be able to divest ourselves from the stigmatization. We have to do it ourselves. We must, of course, divest ourselves from the inferiority complex that they have imposed upon us. And sometimes we gravitate to it because we believe that somehow we were born to be inferior. And in spite of all of that, what gives me the motivation and the encouragement, as I said in the beginning, is that Laventil gave the country and the world the latest, of course, percussion instrument called the steel band, and we were able to give the country, of course, the calypso and the carnival, etc. And I think we still have the talent among us to be as creative. No other constituency in this country has an organization, a political organization dedicated to the community. None. And it is the only, in this election, is the only constituency that will not have either a PNM or a UNC. Or let me put it another way. is the only constituency that will not have a UNC symbol, but instead of that, you will now have, of course, the rocket on the ballot paper. So please, if you are not from Lamberton West, do not look on the 28th for the rocket in your constituency if you are not from Lamberton West. The only one that will be on the ballot is, of course, that rocket. It will be black in color, of course, for the purposes of EBC, but it's only one. And in my view, once we would have accomplished the objective, which is of course to displace the PNM, it means therefore we will be the focus of attention. And as I told the committee yesterday, and I asked them a very pointed question, it was for that reason, what it is they expect, both individually as well as for the community. Let's not waste time. Where the coverage is time, it must graze. And if it can't go down grass, it means that therefore it's sand, gravel and soil will be your portion. Alright, so we are clear on that. And I told them as well, and that has been my job ever since, if I have the chance and I get the opportunity, I empty the treasury in Lamberton. So if I get the chance, I have the opportunity, I empty the treasury in Lamberton. Therefore, that is profound. And it speaks to the level of commitment. And I want to tell you this just in case, because I want to pass over the floor to the vice leader, and then of course we will go on to the other players. Including of course the country. I was given the opportunity to be a temporary senator in the parliament in the Senate of Trinidad and Tobago 7 years ago. I remember it was under pandemic, however. And I was given a second opportunity as a temporary senator as well, after of course making my mark, because most of them said that they find it difficult to speak in that hollow and of course very auspicious place. It's so high, all kind of important people. And they took 3 and 4 times the regular senators before they could of course stand up and talk. And the temporary opportunity I get, when I stand up one time and I contribute to the debate one time. But I had a plan as well, just to reinforce my commitment to emptying the treasury in Lamberton. The next time I thought I had another opportunity, so well dressed and so on, I had replaced, of course, the remark on that occasion. And I was getting up. I said, right, when I get here now, I will ask the Senate to rise, and follow me across the street and let us go into the ghetto and see how they operate. That is in the block commitment. Of course, it didn't happen because probably when we back to that allocated another chance, I see he came back suddenly from the, not the Middle East, from one of the Asian country when there was SARS around, the chicken virus, and he prevented me from getting a second shot. But that's all right. I get on. But that was my plan. I'm saying that only in relation to the statement I made that if I get the chance, I'll empty the treasury in Lamberton. And that is what, only the second occasion, if I only get a second occasion, I think the one second walk across. Walk across. Right? So that is the philosophical and the historical basis for the formation of law. Right? So I don't want it. There will be, of course, elements that say smart man thing and all of that. I know all of that. I passed through all of that. So I know that. But I have been through all of that and I've been here. And those who deal with me will never ascribe that. It's only those who are outside, because they can't believe a fellow from this area, one thing like everybody else, who could not want something except to see his people develop and so on without wanting something for himself and get out. But I prove to them that I have not left, and I continue, of course, the task. So we have a golden historical opportunity to transform not just Laverton but the whole country as a consequence of that commitment. Because suppose I had given up, we wouldn't have today. I rest assured, because I know of no one in this country who made those kinds of moves, create. And they tell me the same thing when I formed MLIO. They say, Smithna, he's a smart man, this and that. For 6,000 young persons of the type. And all them may not know that if some of you who were in those days, I know Salome, we started in Salome's father's place in Pastor Street. But let me tell you something. The criteria for a young person to get in MLIO, because we understood what was happening in Serval, because Serval will get those youth who can still be controlled by their parents and they will be disciplined with the school. But there's a cadre of them who have a phobia for school, for officialdom, etc., to become a gun, etc. We know that. So I am saying for the first time, maybe publicly, that the criteria for entering MLIO, and we are going to set it back up, because that is the dream of the candidate. We're going to set it back up. It may not be the same name, but we'll set it back up, with the same program. The criteria for entering MLIO is that you have to be either engaged or have the potential to engage in criminal behavior. You ever tell them? And we send, of course, to all the leaders and all of the village councils, etc. That is why we were able to get 300 and so on at a time under one Dusty. Well, here's a dream compared to where we were. Dusty, we built load benches, etc. But of course, 300 of them in that hot, humid place, and many of them ended up, of course, in police service, army, and so on. And one for that, I'm very proud of, and he ended up, of course, in the British Army Air Force. One man. But assuming that that institution was not there, and we didn't, no one took the opportunity or the concern to develop our institutions to advance our own people, we would have been in more trouble. So just imagine if we didn't make that intervention of 6,000 young persons graduating between 1984 and about 2000 in earnest. Just imagine what the situation would be today in terms of borderline gangs, etc., etc., etc. And when I meet them, and they're better off than me, I say, you have a better time than me, congratulations. Because I like that, because that's one of the objectives. So this is not about fame, this is not about self-gratification, this is not about money making or nothing like that. And this is a genuine effort to advance Laverton, because my view, as I said, we have given so much and have received so little. We are too close to Port of Spain to be so poor. And of course, some people, too many of them, settle for that. They accept that they are poor and they will always be poor. And of course, the PNM headquarters like nothing better. And so of course, those who are depending on CPEP and URP and so on, and those big food programs, they will sacrifice the entire community. We will see them, of course, canvassing and so on, so we know them, and it's like what they're canvassing for. I don't mind that, because people have to eat, but you must understand your greatest and your loyalist position must be to Laverton and its advantage. And if you have a team or a group that has the capacity and the ability to advance you, your children, your children's children, and make this place a first-class place, then I see no reason why you can't eat them out and vote them out. That's all. Eat them out and vote them out. That's it. I'm do not take it. I know the struggle, I understand that. But at the same time, you must be more devoted. And recently, because what I'm saying here, I thought I already knew. But then I heard Selwyn Kojo recently. I heard Selwyn Kojo, that avid PNM supporter, and of course walked the ranks of the PNM at the highest echelons, rubbing shoulders with of course all the big party in PNM. I know he said recently, after he came to the realization, something I understood long time ago. You know, he said, I love my party. I love my leader, but I love my country more. But I want to tell them, I want to add, I love my country more than everybody else, or anything else. That's me, but it is performed. So it is performed, So we are seeing that happening now over and over very often. I would like it to happen much more faster, but we are seeing, of course, evidence of that all over the place, and we know that there's a wind of change. And we have to be able to ride on that wind of change for the transformation that we know is possible. And of course, whether they consider it to be social re-engineering or political divestment, meaning that getting rid of the past or the incumbent, whatever terminology they use, the fact of the matter is that once we are successful, the whole of Trinidad and Tobago will be looking at us and as not just as the way forward, but as an exemplar, because there are other communities clearly or other constituencies that would love along the Eastern Corridor in particular to divest themselves of the PLN, but they simply don't know. We must show the way. And what has motivated me more to go and talk to Kamala and the team is largely because Tobago, after 21 years, divest themselves of the PLN. 21 years, 14-1. They couldn't even, they're lucky they get one seat. And my colleague Andy and I was there, and we were on the ground, and I want to say, in no small measure, we contributed, of course, to that what I consider to be revolution in terms of doing away with the PNM, and of course, making certain that a transformation takes place. And so it is in that context, I say, we have created this vehicle for only Lavender, for our people to move forward and to, of course, generate the transformation and all of the social and economic benefits that to be derived in order to make certain that our people, young people all over the place, guns, etc., borderline, gangs, warfare is eliminated. And I often use the example of those buildings. You see, because many of them believe that they are doomed to renting for $100 a cheap, yes, but you will never own it. Never, because you rent it. Well, of course, I often make reference to Kamala Prasad Bisasa, and I'm coming to the point about, of course, Kamala Prasad and why, of course, we have reached our wallets. Kamala Prasad Bisasa said when she was in office between 2010 and 2015, listen, take, because of your connection and because of your history and because of the generations that would have born and died within those buildings, take it for $100. That was it. Yeah, take it for $100. It was 2005 thereabout. And it was Eulalie James, who was the parliamentary representative for Portsmouth South, turn and tell the people, listen, that's a trick. That's a trick. Don't take that. They will set you up. Don't take it. Just that alone. And they resisted that. Today, of course, is a different story. But I'm just saying that the devil could always and must always be in the midst. But we as a community and as individuals must be discerning and to know that no way that could have been, of course, a benefit by abandoning that responsibility. Is 99 years to get that for. And I told them, because I wanted them to understand what they have done to themselves. I said, if suppose in the future we clear up the crime and criminality and so on, and carnival time come around. And all those apartment owners could collectively advertise in the United States and Europe and so on, and say we have a room and cloud a room only for the carnival season. And get some Yankee money. But more than that, you can use that as collateral to buy a car, to send your children to school, to buy another building or another property. In other words, you can go to the bank with collateral. And that is what we are talking about. The development with what we have. Yes. But it appears that they can't see it, or there is some impediment that is preventing that from happening, and clearly the common culprit is that of the PNL. Because those on the ground there who get the different trinkets, URP and so on, will go into every one of those buildings and tell them, listen, you know where you have, but you know where you get. They will tell them, listen, me and you is friends, and I tell you, next time around the PNL will do get out. Of course, they have said that, of course, just before the election before, the election before that, the election before that, the election before that. They can't be that judgment. But of course, it has come full circle, and I say that the opportunity has presented itself, and we must, of course, now take responsibility. Of course, we have more time to chat on the various campaign meetings, etc. We of course more of that philosophy and idea, but I thought it was important to share that philosophy here, because when we go back, because a lot of very important people are here from the community, and I want to make sure that we have a common message. So that is why I've taken so long, but I thought it was important and incumbent as the political leader to, of course, lay the foundation for when we go out there, what to expect, what we have done already. All we are saying, we have done this. My good friend here has done a lot. Stephen has done a lot. Those who I know, and of course, directly and indirectly, of course, to them, etc. Whether they give us the building free of charge, your father, free of charge, at a start, we started with 25 youths, and then of course, with 300, and we have, the place was so damn small, we had to go out by Fernandez and beg them for a big shelf. Right? So I think that is the preliminary thing. I mean, we can talk all day and night on another issue, but it's important that we lay the basic foundation. I think I have done so. I am the kind of person who don't like to talk and not of course get response. So before I hand over briefly to the people leader, let me invite the audience to, of course, any questions you may have, any concerns immediate. Of course, we have time to meet with each other and share and so on, but I want to make sure that in this we are able to be as common as possible and reach close to the commonality of purpose and objective. Any questions that anybody may wish, any kind, it doesn't matter. And of course, as I always say on the corridor, green rooms is irrelevant here. It's one side to understand. So, whether you say I will say I will. It's alright. So I'll lay the foundation to make you feel comfortable. If you do have a question to ask anybody on the outside as well, to ask any question on what I've said so far, and then of course we can move. Alright, okay. So you got it? Oh, you have one.
Ladies and gentlemen, on the table,
yes.
This is Mr. Williams from the Aluma area.
Good.
Let's talk about the Laventille West, and this is a hilly area. It's a hilly area.
Yeah, the topography, yes.
What you want to put in place in terms of sport?
Well, when you reach the one of the managers, and you will hear history, because the campaign will be based not on what I will do. Myself and them can't touch me. The team I see here 1 year yesterday, and then you can't dream. Let me tell you something. As I told them yesterday, I said, Shoma Wilson is his mother. He's a lawyer. But the development plan for Bita, when Warner was, of course, looking for ideas to develop, I was in her house, and I have in one of these here, no, we made document, in one of these books here, you plan for become. Is in all you need to do, of course, is to add it because over time it becomes slight, it needs slight adjustments, but every single thing inside of it. When we went up on the hill in 2005, SAR and of course the council elders and so on, because I who put the development plan for Labrador together when we went up and recruit, that's a bad word in yourself, I can't say recruit, I'll say recruit ourselves in Mayaro and Gypsy say we were only doing down here. But we were there days, Samson and a number of all the bad boys and them from Peter, etc. And we spent a whole weekend there and we put a very comprehensive document together. So we have that, and I'm sure it will be rolled out in due course, right? And you get that in the future. But as I told them, I said I like to document things, so nobody could say, well, Smith, you're lying. Like I know they will say, for example, on the return, because that is their hard plan, because they're going from there, they're carrying from there. When I say Stephen and them fellas, Stephen, there's a different surname that eludes me now. But it is my authenticity, and we develop the interface competition program, starting with, of course, beauty pageant and so on. And more than that, I wrote a letter for them to meet money. And here, meet money in that particular case. And as a consequence of that, money provided a challenge trophy, which of course will be there all the time because a challenge trophy and so on. And money came and witnessed the prize giving, and I never went. You know why I never went? Because I know once ago, they will say Smith, the thing will turn Smith, and therefore the people will never get what they're supposed to get. It's the same thing with the technology and the laboratory technology and continuing education center. That is my idea. My idea. And Heinz, of course, born with it. And I just laugh. But now that I have the opportunity, I will let the whole world know that Heinz can't think as far because it's dreadlocks, one locks alone. It's too thin for him to think so far. Yeah, I want to go quickly because
one more. In terms of culture, as you mentioned,
okay. But I'm sure the team, we have a very, what I can say, diverse and team in all of those areas, but I have to admit that I am not familiar because my area would have been education and of course capacity building in that regard. My friend here will be, of course, in the area of sports and culture and all that kind of things. In fact, he was attached to the Ministry of Youth.
Is there any plan for a museum in this land in terms of culture?
Good idea, good idea. We will deal with that because Horace Raymond, you see I get the name now as soon as you go. Horace Raymond, when he founded the Swiss Simon organization, just in the corner of Picton and the Eastern Main just before the flyover, well, that was part of his agenda, but of course he has not been able to return because he died, and he died of course in the service of the community. People like these must be honored. Yes. Serious problem. Yes. Serious. Honoring our own and people from the outside making us believe that we cannot do what we gave the national community. Today, they are talking about putting it on the national emblem. We give them that. How the hell? We can't create the social engineering, if you want to call it that. The paradigm shift, if you want to call it that. The metamorphosis, if you want to call it that. The changing and to evolve and to make certain that at the end of the day, all of us, including of course those who are born yet, benefited from our proximity to Port of Spain, the capital city and the main administrative and political center of the country. How the hell we so poor? And when I speak like this, not only do I get emotional, but I'm so damn vexed because right now, as we speak in the 21st century Trinidad and Tobago, it has latrine on top of it. Yeah. Latrine, how come? How come? That is the thing that we have to talk. But let me just introduce our police.
Nobody will say something. Nobody else will say again.
One thing. One thing. Let us on the voting paper, right? I think
Go ahead, you think about it?
one there on the ballot paper with the rocket, right? I think it might be a wise move to put in the rocket as normal, but you put in UNC on the ballot paper.
No. UNC. Love is with the European Party ballot paper. And you see, there's no need for UNC. There will be no UNC in Lavender West. There will be no hope. It's PNM, rocket, full stop.
Right. What I kind of do, right?
Go ahead.
Now, you unite with UNC.
Yes.
Right? So, the people ought to know that if overall,
Listen. Let me ease your mind. The campaign, they discussed that meeting yesterday. That is why he has done it. When we walk in, right, and you will see. So, yeah, so let me just preempt you. Oh, you have one? Quickly, yes.
What you say, really, I was someone to say, good coalition.
Yeah, well, it's something, and it is reflected in right here on this
Right
thing.
coalition
Yeah.
and
Right here on this thing.
if they get them to put coalition on the ballot paper.
Yeah. So, right. You have a question.
Good morning, everyone. The reason why it has to be like that, remember, this was already registered at PDC. And at this stage and at this point, from a legal aspect, nothing cannot be changed. So when we go, whether UNC or Love for Lavender, this is what we will see. But we know deep down what we do. We collide for the people of Lavender.
Yeah, but what I'm saying is, let it give us a coalition.
They can't change.
No. It cannot be. You see, the coalition will be reflected in the campaign.
Okay,
So when people go to the polls, they know what kind love, UNC, same damn thing. Yes,
My name is Mickie Taylor. So, I just show with this party. Right? I'm going to this party. I 100% and more to this party. Right? So, what I want to the youth and the elders, the youth in the area, by your vote, word of mouth, and by this man word of mouth, they get out to the youth to let them know it's to come out by the hundreds and the thousands to vote. I want you to let them know what you have in store for them to come out of. To come out to the town to vote for this party, love. Because they have to have some kind of incentive to bring the youth to us. And I 100%, but I think the other party can really get my vote for this party. You understand? So I want to vote, I want. You understand? Vote back. Vote force. You can't tell me, CPEP, you are paid. I can't go to the bank. I can't go no way to get something or these jobs the government is supposed to do. This is job work. Yes, people take it to mind of family. We have to know what we use to come out and get something to benefit the youth to come. Maybe they can take a letter, get something in the bank and cook it on the choice too. You understand me? Imagine I went by my Sarangs and you know what you're telling me? Well, I look at good job. Yeah, we tell me that if we can start to sell sweet tea and Tolo and the remains and all them can't take them out of your family.
You tell me that too.
Yeah.
I tell that too. So I said to her, So that means that it's a common thing with these folks.
No, you is my MP.
Yeah.
I have let's say 6 months of you. You understand? You telling me that. So, anybody who represented my constituency, I want to know what they're doing with us. Because between all the faces I see here, there is just a fraction. You understand? When this thing gets outside it, with the people I see, people will follow. Because we can't say we voted for PLM, this other party and that other party. When that party they want to get, they studying me no more. We understand. It's time for me to study myself in Lamantin.
That's right.
It's yes. Someone cheers now?
It's so long I can't.
Yeah, it's so long.
It's so long I
I'm
can't.
busy backbone of every party who want to come in our constituency to lead. Everybody wants us. Why don't want us? Because our track record throughout Trinidad and Tobago, we are talented people, and also we have a vibes described throughout Trinidad and Tobago. Everybody wants us. It's time for me to want myself. And that's why I back in this mandate. And so I want everybody to leave with this words what I say here, to tell each other, to spread the word. Lamantin must rise with a love to rise, to see if they can mash up the hate they put up in the area and we committee. We want to see if we can mash it up. Borderline everything, mash it up. You know what? You want love. That's why we say love. So I want everybody to go and spread the word. I have PLM for 25 years and my mother born and growing PLM, so I die in PLM. What they do for you? At 10 days, I see people, they get a 6 month or 3 month program, and I said, what regular work you want? What you want to shoot some out of the block out there without work? Won't die to see if they can get work. None of them. None of them can get no work because it's protocol. Nobody fighting for them. We love will fight for them. As long as you are wrong, we love. And make sure, as long as you're in this party, we fighting for you. Let me break this barrier. This is the first barrier, people in Lamantin at the break. As long as they break this barrier, things will be so sweet. So spread the word. Things will happen. Whoever we ask for, we'll make it happen. That's why we have a general council for cause. When we bring it to the board, them have to work for me. They need work, them have to work for me. But at the end of the day, we have to put ourselves in power. And that's all I understand.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. I want to tell you he was very modest. Of course, he's one of the, what I consider to be premier business person in this part, right? So he's not talking out of just experience alone, but beyond that, I just want to recognize him for that. Young one quickly before we ask the
when we win, a way to create employment. We have buses, right? And for youth who want to do agriculture, you have a piece of land, right? And the summer too, so you pick them up in the morning, you tie them to the land, you let them plant, right?
Thank you very much.
Bring them back.
When we rolling out to that part of it, so when we go to people, I thought he's made a very important point. But today's exercise is to familiarize ourselves with love and with each other. In terms of those kinds of details, and rest assured, they're there. And I will keep you on the back one time. At one time, we asked for a piece of land in in city, and we name every plot after a community in Lavender, Victor, Cedar, etc. So we have all of those kinds of things. Don't be, I'll tell you, a 1,000-page document that dealing with every aspect of life, and of course the possibility of a sustainable Lavender in and out of Lavender, right? So I just want to preempt you so that we can get to the people.
All things like that is very clear what's supposed to be done.
Yeah, obviously, that's why we have to know it. We have
One suggestion I want to be okay. My name is Victor.
yes. Please introduce yourself before you.
I'm from South. So, one question. There's a question and a suggestion.
Okay.
You're training youths. You're training a lot of people. But you see, when you get the training in one thing, after you finish the training, what else? No. When I say what else, you have to eventually create something like a skills bank. You have to create that, because if you don't create that, then
See, again, we discussed that only yesterday. So yes. And let me just show you how, because not that.
why I say so, we made that same mistake in White Decker.
But
We train the people and then after that,
but I am saying this only to be pointed, but not the church, not that also. I, as Bishop Burke and I think Mother met with Manny and listened to the and no, but we raised the issue of there are something like 50 different programs for young talented young people. White, Minor, you name it, they have it. The thing about it is, as we told him, that seemed to be almost each one of them seemed to be an island unto themselves. They had just scattered, they're all over the place and so what happens? A young man who understands the system, he goes program hopping. So when White he have a day or two left in White, he signed up for hype, or he signed up for my lab, or he signed up for, and he goes program hopping. So that does not achieve the objective of giving them some kind of exposure, and giving them a skill at the same time. And I say, listen, two things you have to do it. One, the school ends for the young man or young woman in the secondary system every July. Let's say that, right? Suppose coming out of school, they've done the CXA exam and they are out. But they have to wait 2 and 3 months before they enter one of these programs. Because each one is an island unto themselves, they have their own system, etc. So what do you do, Mr. Manning? We said, Mr. Manning, listen, what you need to do just before school is closed, you set up the children, one clusters of schools, and let the children who want a career in any one of these programs, and you put a desk there in a particular school, whether it's Malik, covering all the other schools, and let them go there, and before they leave school, you find out from them which program they like, so that you do not have that 6 months period where the devil can take all of them. Devil here meaning, of course, those negative elements that could take them. That's what we're talking about. So you have it here, you're spending money, but as the present Prime Minister said, he's talking about some efficacy ministry. The efficaciousness of that particular program could have worked, because you have a situation where from the time the young man finishes his holidays, his August holidays, he goes straight into a program one time, but he has to know one search. So for any one of those programs, when you could have just streamlined it, put it in a school, and let them children come before school is over. Some going back to school, some going on to university, others of course doing other things. But the fact is that you will capture most of them. That's what I'm talking about. That's the first part. The second part is say, oh gosh, it's government. These programs and there is only 6 months to a year for the most. Well, what you do? You take the government resources and its influence, and all you have to do is pick up the telephone. and call the port, call PTSC, or call all of the private sector agencies in the country and say, listen, we have these boys or girls, and I want them to go to a program one time. Anything you talk about, we have the solution.
Send them to train. Send them to
All of them
when they come out nowhere.
nowhere. You use the telephone, the state, and we used to do that in the line.
I can say something.
Go ahead, man.
Listen to me. Tiny podcast of the television. I want to say that for you. Because here what? We sending all the children to learn a trade and to get passes and they get things. And when they get passes and they get everything, they come outside here and they just knock at the sickle and just get it there, you know, you take part of it. You understand me? When they cannot take so much money,
They spend it already.
wait, listen to me. When they cannot take all the money they're spending and follow it and take it, they can take that money and invest it back in the youth and make the country a better country.
That's right. But you have to streamline it. You have to have sense. You have to have an objective. You have to say what citizen you want this young man to be. And if you have that, you work backwards and you'll get the solution.
It's time. You come out from a training.
But let me just...
They go straight to a job. Straight to a job. Don't wait nobody. No government. This government had to bring we taxpayers money, we foreign money, or they take me money and spend it back and we.
After I tell Manning that, Manning say yes, he agreed.
But now it's spend it back and we.
Nice idea.
The money is spent and we.
Nice idea.
People grab me money and go
All right. Let's get on because he has to go to Wales to do some profiling and to take pictures and so on. And so we know about that. Go ahead, Deputy.
Yes, I'm good morning. To the club leader, Mr. Lennox Smith, our next MP for Hamilton West, Mr. Robert Michel, head of the executives, Green Media, our UNC family of the Coalition of Interest, and all protocol officers. My name is Dana Gabriel. I'm the deputy political leader of Love. I can't say much, but I don't want to say everything. I don't know what to start from or where to move from. I realize the committee pointers are over here. I wish people they said about culture, one say good, one say sports, education. In the next coming days, we'll be going out with our manifesto and we'll say everything towards it. Because our position of interest as my leader next week, Prime Minister, Trinidad and Tobago, Mr. Amila Mr. Sir, gave us our job to do what we have to do. Once we win, everyone wins. So as we start on our launch of Love from today, our next MP will be rolling out to let everybody know what we have to bring to the table. So the guy who wanted to ask about how we get a coalition staff until the election morning, you don't need a coalition staff. You tell one person, the next person tell one person, and then 10,000 people ahead. So when they go to the poll, they will lose now is the coalition of interest. Right? So by standing this, Mr. Ricky, upon Mrs. Man from George and Prince, asks about how we get into trade jobs. You will see that manifesto rolling out this week. So everybody, it's a great job meeting all you. Work with us, and we will work with all you.
I think we have said enough, of course, let's hear from the candidate. I think he's capable of course, introducing himself, etc., etc. So for the first time, we'll be hearing him. And of course, we'll have the two managers, of course, to speak, give us 2 minutes, and then, of course, make it up. So we have to get back here, we make this suggestion for this afternoon when we have the formal launch just outside the party. But Can I give you Mr. Robert Mitchell, the next representative for Laboratory?
Good afternoon, everyone. Well, I'll be brief because I don't have much time, but I'll put some points for going here. My main focus on this campaign will be about children, parents, just have to move house. It's simple. Me, I think very serious. My class is to stay from children. I think those are the things. These things are very negative effect of moving around. You understand? And yeah, I'm a voice to be comfortable with how it is because there is something nobody. But in reality, we have to focus on the children's future. You understand? And the idea, I'm asking you all here to support the new party. We will now try something new here. We want to follow with a powerful agenda and great call by us in our team. That's not much time, but long way, I don't know much time.
Okay. Just in case you don't know the man well, well, of course, one of the things that we are saying from YTC to Parliament, because if you look at his profile, you will see that he started to develop this love for people, having, of course, having a lot of time to think. And as a consequence, he came to Emelali, of course, and I really told him and kept him where I believe that he could make the best contribution. And then, of course, he became the first president of LFL, Laboratory for Laboratory. And here he is, of course, giving out before Kamala. And when, of course, the digital divide was a real concern. I see the date on this particular, but just pass it around there because they see giving a youth. Fortunately, not as though the Lord moved to mysterious place because it is fortuitous that it's a youth from the bottom. I wonder if the candidate gave anybody a computer in 2004. Whatever it is, the fact is that you were giving out computers when Kamala Prasad, the successor for me, was only thinking about it. Alright? And of course, there is another montage where, of course, we saw a situation in Mova where this man here, behind 9 stories, what am I doing? I tried to call that kitchen garden, but we're doing gardening and so on and feeding the residents and the apartment buildings. So we said, well, listen, so he came to us and he said, well, listen, you need tools and so on and so on and so on. So what we did, we ran into the ministry, got the money, $25,000, and of course, he got his tools and so on, and he continued, of course, his work. So, and then, of course, you see a little party where we had a big seminar dealing, of course, with career development and, of course, crime and so on. So, just to briefly, and just in case you doubt, well, this is the check that we got for $25,000 from the ministry. So in other words, it's a man that is engaged in transparency and accountability. Yeah, your time. Okay. All right, because he has some serious time. I have to drop him, so it means therefore we have to come to a quick conclusion. But before we do that, manager number one, please, a few remarks before, of course, we make our departure.
My name is Rodney Stu, the past candidate for Laboratory West in the 2020 election, and now the manager of this campaign that we are on here for 2020. I am showing to you all that UNC is a united party. We share don't mean that because I was not chosen as the candidate that I will step down and give my vote and let my vote go in vain. Because I've been working steadily to the community every day of my life. From since 2018 to now. Right? So we are showing our support that we are one party, as our leader said. Once UNC wins, everybody. So we are standing together to show you all that we are not, as they put it, we are this racial party and we segregated and we don't do this and we don't do that. We have a number of questions across the board about sport. In 2005, Gary went on the papers and said for himself that we had a program called Lavender Freedom Club that worked throughout Lavender to break all the water. He endorsed it and it reached to South Africa, working as a barrier to break barriers in South Africa. Our cultural programs, we just go see the icons because we had Bama, Terra, we have Karina Shea, we have, but what do we nurture? What do we do to nurture this talent that we have? We are sport and culture oriented. Lavender is sport and culture oriented. We have over 24 basketball teams that are not active. The reason why they are not active is they say because of the guns and this. That is not true. That is not true. Lavender is left behind. Because if you go back to 5 years ago, they had a hoop for life. And 10 years ago, when UNC was in power, they had a hoop for life. And used to bring Ed Maloney play Lavender in Lavender. So why? They try to tell me no. And they see that is